Hello everyone and welcome to another video. I just wanted to do a little mini Q&A for you guys today to talk about the channel and what's going to be going up. Currently, as I record this right now, I'm uploading the start of Final Fantasy X-2 Let's Play. That's pretty much what I've been working on the past 4 weeks, longer than that even. It is an enormous game, a ridiculously difficult game to plan out, and that's mostly been what's taking my time. But now that that is finally uploading, I can start doing Guild Wars 2 stuff again as well. I am ashamed to admit it's been about 3 weeks since we had a Guild Wars 2 video, and aside from the feature pack news, the most recent video was a Q&A where I was just talking mostly about world versus world stuff. The feature pack has been very interesting. I do have a lot of opinions on it, but even as I explained in my previous Q&A, I'm very disenchanted with the community right now. I think people are complaining way too much. I find it very difficult to be enthusiastic and share my enthusiasm when I feel like I'm throwing myself in front of it, an angry bus each time. People just want to run me over, and the thing to do is to complain a lot. I do certainly think the community has a very good point, though, with one key thing when it comes to ArenaNet right now. I think most of the frustrations people are experiencing, most of the anger that is directed at the feature pack, isn't necessarily because there were so many leveling changes, but it's that they prioritized leveling changes over what we as veterans, as experienced players, want to see, which is more diversity and depth to the end game content in Guild Wars 2, and it's just not there right now. I think most of it boils down to the fact we don't know what the hell ArenaNet is doing. I can totally understand from their perspective why they did the leveling changes. If they had stats that showed that their player base was leaking massively when people got to level 30 or so after they unlocked their elite skill, it makes sense for me that they would then go back and refine their leveling so that they do hold more players. This is important to all of us to make sure there's always a thriving game, even 5-6 years down the line. Combine that with the fact that many of these changes we saw as a result of the Chinese release. Again, I can kind of understand why they would make them a priority. They're releasing the game in a new region. They know that primarily they're going to have a lot of new players in there, and that those are who they should really focus on. So within that context of these changes being made for the Chinese player base at their release and now just combined over for us, because at the end of the day, they probably are better for new players. Jokes about how stupid ArenaNet think we all are or not. If they are better for new players, then I can understand them moving to our client, right? But the problems and anger that I can totally agree with come in when you ask this question. What have they been doing? Okay, most of this feature pack was just stuff we saw with the Chinese release. The feature pack itself was a fair amount smaller than the previous feature pack we saw for Guild Wars 2, and when you consider that a good 60 to 70% of the content introduced to us with it was stuff that they had done months ago for the Chinese release, it does make you start to wonder where their efforts have been going to. Think about the way this year's gone, right? The year opened, we had 4 fantastic updates to the living world. We had the marionette fight, which people fondly look back at. We have the worm, which, like it or not, has been renewable content and depth for the end game. And we had 2, 3, if you consider the epilogue as well, strong living world releases. Okay, that was early in the year. Then we had a huge break. Why did we have that break? Because of the Chinese release. We had a huge break because of feature pack 1, which was substantive, but then another huge break before season 2 even began. Then just 4 updates for another huge break for a feature pack that had most of its content already made early in the year, and now another huge break for the start of November for another living world patch. Yeah, I can see why people are a bit negative, I really can. That's where I can agree with the community, but overall, I have been a little bit blah about it, right? Like, I can't bandwagon on the hate train as readily as most people seem to. It really depresses me when I see, like, Reddit has exploded or something, and you get these posts from these people who say, oh yeah, I heard there were big changes to Guild Wars 2, I convinced a couple of my friends we were going to come and play the game, but I had a look here, and everybody seems to hate the game. What am I missing? Should I really buy this? And then people turn around and say, no, you shouldn't buy it. It's a terrible game. It's like, what are you doing? Look, you might not agree with some of these small changes, but those reasons you originally came to love the game are probably still there somewhere. It really, really disappoints me to see just this horrible negative spiral, and as I say, I don't want to be the guy that is constantly standing against it. Anyway, that's got very little to do with the lack of Gw2 stuff lately. It's mostly just been that I've been working on X2, and I figure I'll add a little bit of content here and talk about some other news. In the data mining world, this has been very interesting. I did want to talk about. That shaman managed to pull out of the client 2, actually more than 2, multiple maps of a new PvP game type. Now, you remember when I did my feature pack preview, maybe if you watched that, you could notice that in the Heart of the Mists, if you pressed M, you could see a new map has been added on their text for something called Stronghold Castle. These maps seem to be of Stronghold Castle. A bit more context, earlier in the year there was a PvP livestream ready up where the devs talked about the fact they were working on other game types other than Conquest. I personally have always considered Conquest to be holding back the PvP scene in a huge way, and I'm very excited to see that maybe the devs are going to move it aside for something better. These two maps look an awful lot like GVG maps. Now, when I say GVG, I do not mean the kind of large-scale 20v20 death matches you see played out by people in World vs. World, but real GVG, the real esports game type we had back during Gw2, in which you had two teams of players attempting to kill the enemy lord that was hidden behind multiple layers of defense and had various mechanics, okay? This is what we seem to be having here. I'll show you guys the maps right now on the screen. One of them in particular even seems to have something to do with creep. Looks like a weird blend of Guild Wars 1's GVG with some kind of Dota style game. Curious indeed. I must admit, even though I do enjoy MOBAs, I would feel bad if ArenaNet pushed that game type so heavily that when people say, oh, does Guild Wars 2 have good PvP? People turn around and just say, oh yeah, it's just a MOBA clone. Like, I would hate it if that's what ended up happening, so they have to be careful with that. But looks great, and certainly 10 times better than anything Conquest has offered, I must say. You know, Conquest has got its quirks, but someone who has played it, I would say quite extensively, I'm not impressed enough to go back to it at this point. So, yeah, hopefully this will be something big. And that was some cool news, absolutely. I was also asked multiple times, because I have told you guys before I'm going to do this video, that I haven't done a speculation on the latest Living Story patch. Am I going to do one before the next Living World update? Do you know what? I don't actually regret that I haven't done this video yet. The next patch in November? Come on, wow, it's so long we have to wait. Yes, absolutely, I will do another Living World speculation, particularly on that big cutscene with the crystals and the face and the Massar and the Tarnished Coast and blah blah blah. This is all going to be very interesting. I will do one of those, and hopefully that will tide you guys over even slightly on this enormous gap we've had to wait for the second half of Season 2. Keep you guys pumped about the story, but it's just so disappointing to me that I'm even in this position where I have so long to do this video. I just hope people tide over and are still interested once Season 2 comes out. Just the sheer thought that we've had as many Season 2 patches this year as we have had Season 1 patches is just so sad to me. You know, you guys might recall me saying this specifically. Just before Season 2 of The Living World came out, I expressed to you guys concerns that they needed such a long break to develop Season 2. What was going to happen after the first 4 patches? I said because back then we were under the impression they were all separate teams. What was going to happen when the first load, which had this huge buffer period of time to create their patches, were over and now they were back to their 2-week schedule or whatever it was? Well, were the quality of the patches going to diminish? Well, it turns out no, they weren't going to diminish, were they? ArenaNet just stopped doing the patches entirely. 4 patches and then months and months and months of waiting and then another 4 patches. It's still not on. They haven't got the Living World nailed down. The quality of them is phenomenal right now. If they were still bi-weekly, if they were truly bi-weekly and we were on like patch 10, 11 by now, I think it could be a very strong element of Guild Wars 2, but it's not. It's simply not, and we'll have to see ArenaNet announcing some new game plan or something in the future, because the question is constantly arising, what are they doing? In my opinion, I would say they are definitely working on an expansion, and we just have to wait for them to announce it at some point. Oh yeah, last but not least, in-game I have been working on a new stat set. Earlier in the year I did a video where I said, hey, here's why healing power sucks. I'm thinking of doing another video like that, only this time on tanking, because I may or may not now have a full Ascended Nomads Warrior set. Just for the sheer fun of it, just the hilarity of it. So that's pretty much it, guys. Just wanted to keep you in the loop. Not a huge video today, but as the week continues, we'll be going back to regular Guild Wars 2 stuff, and X2 will be going out at the same time. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Hope you've had a great time the past 3 weeks. Negativity hasn't got to you too much, and I will see you next time. Have a good evening, everyone.